Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeff Mearns, and I've got the great good fortune to serve as the president here at Ball State University, and it's a pleasure to welcome all of you to this special program. We're here today, this afternoon, we've gathered to welcome Mike Uremovich to serve as the next head coach of our Ball State football program, and we're here also to welcome Coach U and his wife Katie and his children Michael, Drew, and Ella. Coach, Katie, kids, welcome. Welcome to Ball State University, and I think you're going to find out that all of us who are associated with this institution know that you've joined a very special university community. Welcome. So over the past few weeks, you can imagine that Jeff Mitchell and I have had several conversations about what we were looking for in a new head coach of our football program. And of course, we wanted a leader who would demonstrate success on the field, competitive success, competitive excellence. And as Herm Edwards said about 10 years ago, and as Coach Adolph Ruff said more than 60 years ago, that's why you play the game, to see who will win the game. And many of you know I'm kind of a competitive guy. As most of you know, about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, I dislocated my ankle and broke it in 3 places playing ping pong with my son. So if you have any doubt about how I play, or all of us in the Mearns family play to win, that should put any of those doubts to rest. And in a few minutes, Jeff is going to talk more about Coach U's history of competitive excellence, about winning football games, including, with a different team, winning games in our stadium, which we're not going to allow anymore in the future. But there are many other reasons why we sponsor and support intercollegiate athletics and why I'm so passionate about college sports. Because I believe that participating in college sports, the preparation, the competition, it instills valuable life and leadership lessons in the young women and the young men who will wear our jerseys. It's about the work ethic. It's about discipline and commitment. It's about setting ambitious goals and doing the hard work necessary to achieve those goals. It's about teamwork. It's about putting the interests of a collective group of people above your own personal interest. It's about perseverance. It's about overcoming disappointment and adversity. And it should be about, although we didn't see it this past weekend, it should be about winning with humility and grace and losing with poise and class. You know, we need these qualities. We need these qualities in our communities and in our country now more than ever before. So I had the opportunity on Tuesday morning to meet with Coach U and with Katie, and it was clear to me that he understood the importance of these expectations, that he embodies our values, that his staff and their student athletes, they will also embody our values. With Coach U, our team will play hard, and our team will compete, and our team will excel. And our student athletes will continue to excel in our classrooms. And our players and our coaches will continue to represent us on campus and in the community with character and integrity. And that's why I'm so pleased, I'm so proud, and I'm so excited that Coach U and his family have decided to become Ball State Cardinals, because our best days lie ahead. Please welcome Jeff Mitchell.
Thank you, President Mearns. It is a great day to be a Cardinal. To our alumni, friends, and fans gathered here in person, watching online, or listening on the radio, a theme that you'll hear today is that we are all in this together. Warning, you might hear that a few times. I'm grateful for the support of our Board of Trustees and the trust that our board has in President Mearns and in me throughout this search process, and quite frankly, over the last 21 years of my time on campus, 21 months, the last 3 weeks have felt like years. The alignment of leadership across our campus has been outstanding, and I'm grateful for the support we have received for our athletics division. Here it comes. We are all in this together. That extends to my executive leadership team, Dr. Lindsey Blom, Ryan Hillenberg, and Emma Kumar, who have been extraordinarily helpful through this exciting search process. I also thank 3 other members of our leadership team, Kevin Messenger, Matt Brown, and Joe McCullum, for their diligent support in providing helpful information throughout this search process. We are all in this together. I express my gratitude to our search consultant, Drew Turner, president of Collegiate Sports Associates, who assisted us in our efforts to facilitate a successful search for our new football coach. We are all in this together. I also offer a special note of gratitude to my wife, April, and our children for their extreme patience with me over the last 3 weeks as I focused intently on identifying and hiring our new head football coach. To outline the search process, I was pleased that our candidate pool for this position consisted of well over 50 qualified coaches. Now, I will say there was at least one candidate who had never coached football before but was really interested in the job, so I scratched President Mearns off the list. After some reflection and research and conversation with our search partner, we reduced that list to 9 candidates and engaged in hour-long conversations with these exceptional individuals. We then narrowed that list to 5 and decided to have deeper conversations lasting well over an hour with candidates and included our executive team in those conversations. Finally, I decided to have extended conversations with 3 candidates, including, in some cases, a home visit. Throughout the process, I looked through 3 windows. One, I wanted to find a football coach who is extraordinarily competent in every aspect of leading a Division I FBS college football program. I wanted to find someone who has enjoyed a breadth of experience and possesses significant football knowledge with time coaching at multiple levels of the game, and with a preference for head coach experience. 2, I wanted to find a coach who is connected in our recruiting areas throughout the Midwest, the East Coast, and in the South, and who has a history of constructing talented staffs and building competitive teams. 3, I wanted to find a coach who is competitive and has been a part of directly creating and/or has contributed to fostering a winning culture. In tandem with that competitiveness, I sought a coach who wanted to get started immediately, someone who urgently understood the significance of this great opportunity and who embraced being here at Ball State. At each turn, Mike Uremovich was viewed clearly through these 3 windows. Called by many as Coach U, he repeatedly offered me glimpses of how organized, knowledgeable, connected, energetic, and eager he is. Those of us in this room, online, or listening to the radio know how special of a place Ball State University is. Our people are our strength. We are all in this together. And I believe we're stronger today with Mike Uremovich as our head football coach. Coach U is an exceptional leader and recruiter who cares deeply about his family, his players, and his staff. He has coached at places where it has been historically difficult to be successful, yet he has won. He has been a coordinator within the Mid-American Conference and has dominated the league. He has coached at the Power 4 level and has been revered by coaches and players alike. In the past 3 years, with a 23-11 record, Coach Uremovich has turned around a Butler program that had not recorded 3 consecutive winning seasons since the late 1980s, and he guided them to the school's first ever top 25 ranking in 2024. As President Mearns mentioned, perhaps most importantly is Coach Uremovich's character and his understanding of our university's enduring values of beneficence. Each day, Coach U lives out the mantra of doing good in the world and for others. I had the good fortune of twice visiting with Coach U in his home alongside his lovely wife, Katie, and their 3 children, Ella, Michael, and Drew. There I found a family who is all in this together. On Tuesday, as President Mearns mentioned, he and I again visited with Coach U and Katie in their home and talked about the future of the Ball State football program. And true to form, Coach U called the plays for how we can improve and get back to being at the top of the Mid-American Conference. His detailed approach to roster construction, staff construction, and preparation to play a physical and powerful and exciting brand of football was palpable. After the visit, I was honored to invite Mike Uremovich to serve as the head football coach for Ball State University. And Coach emphatically accepted by giving me a giant bear hug and saying, "Jeff, we're all in this together." It is now my honor to introduce you to the 19th head football coach of Ball State University, Coach Mike Uremovich.
Thank you, everyone, for being here today. I want to thank President Mearns, Jeff Mitchell, and talking with them through the process and finding out their values and their passion and what they see the football program looking like here at Ball State. It was right in line with what I want to do and how I like to run a football program. And it is about everybody doing it together. It's about from the president to the head football coach, all the way down to the trainers, to the equipment managers, to the people that are filming practice. A football program is important to a university. It brings spirit to the university. It gives people in the community something to be proud of. Drew over there. Sorry, Mike, not Mikey anymore. When you're a coach, coaching is a calling. So as a coach, your family has to sacrifice a lot, has to allow me to be with my players more than I'm with my family at times. So I appreciate it. I'm not going to look over there so I don't get emotional, but thank you guys for everything that you've done. I want to thank all the assistant coaches that I've coached with at every stop along the way. I can't name all of them, but I've had a great experience and learned a lot at every place I've coached at. I've had the opportunity to work for some of the best head football coaches in the United States of America, winning football programs. Every head coach I've worked for has coached a winning football program. I got my first job at McCutcheon High School. A guy named Don Toller hired me. He had been a college coach. He knew I wanted to coach college, and he took me at a young age and taught me what it was to be a coach. He taught me how to break down film. He taught me how to do a practice plan. A lot of the stuff he taught me I still use today. I then got to go back to my high school, Providence Catholic High School, and work for my old high school head coach, Matt Seffner, who was the winningest coach in the history of the state of Illinois when he retired. And he won a lot of state championships, and the players on the other side of the field were usually better than the ones he was coaching. But he taught me about development and having a plan and having a system and making players better. He taught me the importance of offensive line play, and that's why I started coaching offensive line and did it for the majority of my career. He would take freshmen in high school that couldn't jump rope, and by the time they were seniors, they were dominant offensive linemen because he worked with them and built their confidence every single day. From there, I got an opportunity to be a college football coach for the first time at Benedictine University. And I didn't tell you guys this in contract negotiations, but it was for $2,800. $2,800. And I got the perk of the job was I got to also work security in the fitness center from 5 to 9 in the morning. And I got a little extra money for that, and I'd let the elderly people come in and walk the track, and they'd bring me cookies sometimes, and it was great. But Coach Hand, and I also worked for him at Waynesburg College, in which we won the first conference championship in the history of the school, and went to the national playoffs. But he taught me that you can do a lot for your university as a head football coach outside the building that you're working in. He was involved in campus ministry. He was involved on campus with some of the men's groups. He went and spoke to classes. You can influence and impact a lot of people as the head football coach, and you need to use that. You need to take that opportunity to help people get where they want to go. From that opportunity, Coach Novak at Northern Illinois hired me as a graduate assistant at NIU. NIU had the nation's longest winning streak in the country. They had the worst facilities in the country and probably the lowest budget. I never saw it. I was just a GA, and they didn't pay me much, okay? But he turned that program around by recruiting kids that wanted to play for him, were tough, and wanted to be at NIU. Most of the kids that we coached there had one offer, and that was to NIU. He built a program at a place that nobody thought you could win at. Nobody. And that showed me that you can do it anywhere. So I took a head coaching job at 28 years old at the University of St. Francis in Joliet. Dave Lucchetta was the athletic director, hired me, but Gordy Gillespie, a legendary Hall of Fame baseball coach, and Pat Sullivan, a basketball coach, were at the end of their careers. And they taught me how to be a head coach, how to run a program, and how to handle when things go good and when things go bad. And St. Francis had not won games in a long, long time. And we ended up winning the conference championship, winning a national playoff game, beating Georgia State in the Georgia Dome, an FCS school with an NAIA roster. And we turned that program around because those two men helped me and went out of their way to make me a better coach. Dave Dorn hired me from that spot to go to NIU. I'm going to try not to say NIU too many times today, but this is what happened. To be a full-time Division I coach, and I was his special teams coordinator. And then I went with him after that to be the O-line coach at NC State. But at NIU, we won a MAC championship. We went to the Orange Bowl. Nobody thought you could go to a BCS bowl game from a MAC school, and we did. He runs a program the way it should be ran. Everybody in that building knows exactly what they have to do. They're given the resources to do it, and he's going to help you every way that he can. He's going to hold you accountable if you don't. And the sustained success that he's had at NC State is because of that. Coaches are going to come and go, and when you start winning, they're going to come take your coaches. And players are going to come and go, and guys are going in the portal. But you have to not have a good team. You have to have a program in place that's bigger than any one person. And that's what Dave taught me when I was there. I went to NIU one more time. Last time I'll say NIU, but the stock is in our building over there, so it's okay. We can say that as much as we want. And I was the offensive coordinator for Rod Carey. We won another MAC championship and went with him to Temple. And Rod did an unbelievable job of making the players be around and the wives and the kids all be together and do things together. From pizza night at the position coach's house on Thursday to family dinner night in the facility on Sunday, the players and the coaches and the wives and the kids, people talk about being a family. It was a family. And those kids get to see you being a dad and being a husband, and you get to know them, and you're talking about things that have nothing to do with football. But guess what? It makes you better at football because you all care about each other, and you know that that person cares for you. And he taught me that. And when I got to Butler as a head coach, when Barry Collier hired me and Ken LaRose, I brought those same ideas and did that with our staff. Ken is a legendary football coach at Butler, and he kind of helped me at Butler, teach me about what the Butler way was. And I'll tell you the thing about Butler is they win there with less than everybody else. From a facility standpoint and from a financial standpoint, what they get done at Butler is a credit to the leadership there and how all of the coaches work together. From basketball to volleyball to soccer to baseball, everybody's in it together. When there's a home game, there's coaches at all those games. And that's how they're successful. And I learned that there, and I'm excited to bring that here. All the experiences I just talked about is why I'm standing here ready to be your head football coach. I'm going to ask 3 things of our players, and I'm going to demand 3 things of our players and our staff. And the one is championship effort. And these things don't require any talent. You can give great effort in everything that you do, and when they give it, I'm going to give them a hug, and I'm going to be excited. And when they don't, I'm going to tell them because they can be better. I'm going to demand championship accountability. Accountability is doing things right. Accountability is being on time. But accountability is also saying when you didn't do your best or you didn't do something right. I don't like talking about this because I'm mad about it, but it was a 3rd down and 1 call in one of our games that we lost at Butler this year. And I called a bad play. What they had been doing previously in the red zone to that point, we had our game plan set up for, and we had already been there once. And I went back to the sheet, and they had done something different. And I called a play I shouldn't have called, and it didn't work out. And so when I went to that team meeting on Sunday, I told those kids, the first clip I showed them was, I said, this one's my fault. I didn't put you guys in good enough position to win. I didn't call a good football play here. I'm going to try to make it never happen again, but I want you to know that we're all doing this together. It's not coaches and players or players versus coaches. It's a team going to try to win a football game, and I didn't help us right there. Because every other Sunday we go in there and point out all the mistakes the players make. We got to hold our coaches to the same standard. And we're going to have great effort, great attitude, and great accountability. That's the three things that we're going to talk about all the time. The last thing I want to talk about is that we have everything we possibly need to win here. We got a great facility across the street that you can train and develop championship football teams. We have a community that wants to see a winner, wants to support a winner, and I've been in the stadium, as I don't know who said it, you said, I've been there twice on the other sideline. I'm excited to be on the home sideline and have the fans behind us. And we got a great area to recruit. Within 5 hours of here, there's some of the best high school football players in the country. And we're going to recruit every single one of them. And we're going to be in their high schools, and we're going to be in their homes, and we're going to get to know those kids. And a lot of them are going to come here as high school seniors. But the fact of the matter is, about half of them are probably going to come here as transfers. So we're going to treat them the right way, and we're going to treat their parents the right way, and we're not going to lie to them in recruiting. And if we don't end up offering a guy, we're going to tell them that early in the process so he can go somewhere else, and we're going to be upfront with them like we are our players. And then when it comes time for them to leave their schools, which is what happens now, they're going to remember how we talked to them and how we treated them, and their coaches are going to know how we treat our players that we have in our program, and guys are going to come back here to play football. I'm excited to get going here. If you can't tell, I'm getting fired up talking about recruiting. I'll stop there, but just tell you, I'm very proud to be your head football coach, and I'm going to do everything I possibly can every day to get us where we all want to go. Thank you.
We'll go ahead and open now for questions from our media, both here in our front row and in our back row. We will ask you to raise your hand, grab my attention, and we will have a mic holder come direct a microphone to you. We will ask media to identify yourselves for the sake of our coach who's meeting you for the first time. We'd like for you to identify yourselves, also for sake of our live streaming and live broadcast. Audrey, if you want to go ahead and start right here, we'll start with Kate Hampton from the Star Press.
Hey, Kate Hampton with the Muncie Star Press, part of the USA Today network. Just, first and foremost, how have you and the family been settling into Muncie so far?
It's been great. I'm obviously was just most recently coaching at Butler, so it's only about an hour away. So I've been commuting at night and going back and forth late and early in the morning. But they're excited to be here, and we get to see campus today and all that. Obviously, at some point, once we get through all this crazy stuff, we'll move closer over here and be part of all this. But it's been exciting. It's been fun. And when you take over a head coaching position, you're doing like 18 different things at a time. So you really got to compartmentalize what you're working on at that moment. The best thing that we've done, and the most important thing I've done, is I've met with every player on the roster already over the course of the last 2 days and explained to them what I see this program looking like and where they can help us and where they're gonna fit in with what we do.
Kyle Smedley with the Ball State Daily News. You talked about what needs to happen here to turn around the program. How do you go about enforcing those things and those demands?
I wouldn't say them demands, they're challenges. And it's a challenge for everybody to have a great attitude and have great effort and be accountable every day. But it's one day at a time. You can't sit up here and say we're going to win the MAC championship. What we got to do tonight as a staff is make the best effort we can at recruiting. Both some of the high school prospects that are there and some of the portal guys. And we got to do it again tomorrow. Our guys all have finals next week. And some of them are done already, but they need to be preparing for their finals and do well academically so they can come back and be ready to perform in the spring academically. Our players over this break have all been challenged to go run and lift and get after it, because when they come back here January 6th, we are getting after it. So they need to prepare themselves while we are getting our staff together, recruiting and getting everything set up for them to be back here. But it's I don't like the term process because people use it all the time, but it's doing as best you can every single day, whatever task that is, and then you got to do it again the next day.
You talked about meeting with players and also just the players that are going to stay here as well. How do you go about gaining the trust of either a recruit or a returner?
Recruiting and a returner is a little different because when you're recruiting a young man, we're going to identify him sometimes as a sophomore, a lot of times as a junior. You have multiple interactions with him and his family. You get to talk to his teachers. You get to talk to his guidance counselors. We know people at all these high schools. You can find out about them. So you have time to build a relationship. The kids that I've met with that are in this program right now, I had 15 minutes to talk to them. I talked in a team meeting, but that's a team meeting. I want to sit down and get to know people. So there's multiple guys that I've talked to that I'm going to talk to again over the course of the next 3, 4, 5 days. Some of those guys are deciding whether they want to stay here or not. Some of those guys just want to know more about what we're going to be about as coaches. And I told them they could all come back as many times as they want. I want to get to know them. It's just the timing of how this goes. They're all going home for break. So when they get back, we'll all spend plenty of time together, and we'll do the things I talked about and have the cookouts and spend time with them. But right now it's about them making decisions, and some of them are going to decide in the next couple of days what they're going to do.
Elijah Poe from the Ball State Daily News. You talked about Butler. What were you able to learn most from that organization to make you prepared for this job?
You know, just how everybody worked together. And Butler was the first job that I had as a head coach with the portal being what it is. So I've been an assistant with the portal going on for a while, and I was a head coach at St. Francis without the portal. But it was the first time that I had to build a roster with the availability of the portal, and it's a completely different enterprise to do that. So it really taught me how to navigate through there and what homework you have to do on the guys. And that's what the thing I learned the most personally in building a program is just how different it is now because of the portal, guys coming and going, both ways.
Zach Carter, Ball State Daily News. I know being a new head coach, you got to make a staff now for your assistants. What are you kind of looking for in assistant coaches?
I'm looking for guys that are going to do the 3 things I talked about earlier. I'm looking for good men that are great husbands and good fathers that are going to be examples to our players. And I want guys that can coach football. And I'm not going to hire anybody that doesn't do any of those things. So some guys, there's a lot of guys that, believe it or not, are really good football coaches, but there's no way they're going to be on my staff because they don't do the other stuff that I just talked about. There's a lot of guys that want to come coach football here on our football staff. We're going to have a great staff, and at some point we're going to announce them all. I don't really want to talk any more about the staff today because there's some guys that are playing this Saturday, and I do not want to take away from their teams and the preparation of what they're doing. As soon as we get through these games and these championship games and all that and some of the playoff games, we'll let you guys know who's on the staff and where they're coming from.
Coach Dylan Sin from the Journal-Gazette in Fort Wayne. I guess just for you, as you try to build out this roster, what did the next couple of weeks look like for you as you do dive into the transfer portal a little bit here?
Yeah, well, what you look at is, okay, we have this list of returning guys, and then you have guys that are currently in the portal that I've met with most of them, not all of them, but most of them. Those guys are going to have to make a decision here pretty soon. You can't hang out there indefinitely because we have to protect our football program. And normally I wouldn't have this policy, but because I'm new, I think it's fair to them to see what's out there. But moving forward, if you go in the portal, you're telling me you don't want to play here anymore. Okay? So we got to see which one of those guys want to come back. And at the same time, I've analyzed a vast majority of the roster and got listed what I feel we need to get. Now, there's 2 times that you can address that. You can address it right now with mid-year transfers, and we will be taking some of those guys. Some will be high school early enrollees. Most will be transfers. And then you can address it again at the end of spring practice with summer enrollees. Because of the time that I'm getting this job and getting our staff together, okay, I would expect us to have many more at the end of it, at the end of spring ball than we're taking right now, okay? Because here's the thing I'm going to tell you about recruiting. I don't care who we don't get. I don't care if we miss on a guy. I only worry about who we get. And my most important job is the people I bring in that locker room. They can't just play football. They got to be good character guys. They want to get a degree from here. They want to do things right here. And it's hard to find that out about somebody in 2 days. Now, there's some transfers in here that I've recruited that I know, and I've been in their homes, and they decided to go somewhere else. I'm very comfortable with taking one of those individuals because I know them. But just some guy that, I'm not going to name a school, jumped in the portal from who knows where, I'm not real big on doing that unless I know someone that we're going to do our homework on these guys. Because once they're ours, and they're part of our program and part of our family, and that's my most important job, is I control who's in the locker room.
You talked about just recruiting not only from Indiana, but kind of within this 5-hour radius. Why is that important for you?
Because those kids are, the closer you go to school, first of all, the more likely you are to stay, because you have family and friends and all that, and they're invested in the process, and you're not getting homesick and all these other things. But that's where our connections are. And that's when I go into a high school in Indianapolis, or I go into Chicago, and I know the high school head coach, and he tells me, this kid can play for you. You've been here 20 years in a row. I know what you want. He'll fit with you. I'm going to take his word for it because he's given me 8 other players. If I go down to some state that I don't know anybody at, and they're selling me on their kids, I don't know those kids. That doesn't mean we're not going to recruit outside the Midwest, but the vast majority of our roster is going to come within 5 hours of here.
In the brief conversations that you have had with each player and the staff, what's the general atmosphere around the facility?
Anytime there's a coaching change, it's tough because people liked Coach New. And I knew him, and I know him very well, and he's a very good man. So it's hard because it hurts these players when their coach is gone. And then there's also an excitement level that there's a new coach coming in. And what I found, having gone through this most of the time, half the guys are upset that the coach left, and then half the guys thought they should have been playing, and they think the new coach is going to play them. So they're excited. Just telling you. That's how it usually goes. And I said that in the first team meeting. I said, half you guys are happy to see me, and half you guys are pretty comfortable and wish I wasn't here. So they're all starting over. And I told them all that. I said, I won't talk to one person in our building. One of our GAs came up to me and said, hey, I'd like to go over the defensive people with you guys. I said, I'm not doing that with you. I'm going to form my own opinion on every one of these kids. Because I don't know what was going on. I don't know anything about their position coach. I don't know about the schemes they were asked to do. I don't know anything about that. So my opinion on every one of these young men started at that first team meeting and be formed from here for the duration of their time here. So everybody's got a fresh start, and I told the team that. And that some people won't like that, some people will, but they're going to go earn it on the field starting January 6th, and then they'll ultimately earn it on the field during practice at spring ball.
For any recruits who may be listening in or watching right now, how would you pitch them to Ball State right now?
If they're watching right now, I don't want to recruit them because they should be in class, all right? But they might watch it on video. So all the things I just said, we got a great opportunity here to do something special. And it's fun to win, guys. I love winning, but it's really fun when you do it with a bunch of guys that haven't been having success. You do it in a community that really wants to win and hasn't won in a while. You do it with a bunch of coaches that know how to do it. It's really rewarding to watch those guys sing and dance in the locker room after a big win when they've had to suffer through some of those losses. When you've been somewhere that wins it every year and you get the championship again, which I've been, it's fun. But those kids, they won one 2 years ago. Watching those kids win for the first time and get a championship ring and get to go to a bowl game and do all of those things, that is extremely rewarding for me. That's why I coach, and that's why I came here.
You talked about calling plays at Butler. What's the type of offense, or how would you kind of describe the offense you like to run?
We are always going to build our offense around our best players. So it would be foolish of me to come in here and say, we're going to do this, we're going to run it every time, or we're going to pass it every time. We're going to get into spring, and we're going to evaluate our guys and say, these are our best players. We got to get them the ball. Here's how we're going to do it. So I coached for Matt Canada at a couple different stops. He was offensive coordinator in the NFL, one of the best offensive minds I've ever worked with. And what he would do at the beginning of every offseason, we'd sit in the room, he'd say, who's our best offensive player? And we'd say Johnny, and we'd write his name on the board, and he'd say, who's second? Okay, that's Steve. All right, who's third? All right. And then we get to about 5 or 6. He goes, okay, how do we get those guys the ball? I don't care what our playbook says. Those are our best players. They got to get the football. And our offense is flexible enough to do that. So if we got a bunch of good wide receivers, they're going to get the ball. We're going to throw it to them. We're going to flip them the ball on jet sweeps. We're going to run power reads. If we got a bunch of good tailbacks, I'm going to play 2 tailbacks at a time. Last year at Butler, I had 2 outstanding quarterbacks. So we played 2 quarterbacks. I'm not going to have one of those guys standing on the sideline when he's our 4th best player on our team. So our offense is predicated on what we have in the building. As we're here longer and tend to recruit more, it'll start to take a little bit more of an identity. But what we're going to look like at the end of spring practice, I don't know right now because I haven't seen us practice. I know what schemes we're going to run, but whether that's in no tight ends or 1 tight end or 2 tight end sets, that depends on the depth that we have at those positions.
Jace Miller, Newslink, Indiana. You've been in the MAC. You've had that coaching experience. How does your mindset change trying to get to the MAC championship or to a bowl game being in a head coaching position?
I was fortunate enough to be a part of some MAC championship teams, like you said. And the MAC is a great conference because all of the teams are fairly close. They're competitive football games. That's why everybody loves watching it on Tuesday nights, because it's always a good game. So the way that you win in the MAC, first of all, is you don't beat yourself. You don't have penalties. You don't turn the football over. You got to win on special teams. And then a lot of those games, you got to be the tougher, most physical team and go win it in the fourth quarter. That's what you got to do. If you go look at whoever's in the MAC title game every year, they usually won 3 to 5 games in the fourth quarter. And you look at the team that's in the bottom of the conference every year, they usually lost 3 to 4 games in the fourth quarter. That's the MAC. That's why I love it, man, because you got to bring it every week. There's not a game on your schedule in the league that you're just going to roll in there and win. It's competitive, man, and I love it.
You talked about not beating yourselves and just that there's a lot of MAC teams that win in the fourth quarter and there's those that lose. This past season, Ball State was one of those teams that lost in the fourth quarter. How do you go about not having those self-inflicted wounds?
I don't know about their last season. I'm not going to comment on that necessarily, but I do know this, that if you're going to fight in the North Atlantic, you got to train in the North Atlantic. All right? If you're going to win games when you're physically tired and it's late in the game, then you got to practice that. And we practice now. All right? We do inside run every single day in the spring. We do inside run every week in the season. We train to win those games at that time. You have to practice that way. However you want to have to perform at its most important point of the game, you better practice that way. You can't just show up and do it. So we'll win those games by the way we prepare these 15 practices in spring, the 25 practices we get during training camp, and then all of our non-league games, getting ready for that MAC schedule. Those games will be won or lost before we get to the MAC games by the way we prepared.
You talked earlier about all of the coaches that you've been with, all the places that you've been, they've had a winning culture. And with your 2 head coaching stops, you had to kind of build a winning culture there. How do you plan to go about rebuilding a winning culture here at Ball State?
It's just keep telling the guys what the expectations are every day. You're never going to go in our building and have a big list of team rules on the board because they got to do things right. I mean, that's not too complicated. You know what's right and wrong, and I tell them, if you're not sure, call me and I'll tell you, okay? It's not that challenging, okay? We're not going to have a bunch of goal boards up on the board. We want to rush for this many yards or throw for that many yards. We want to score touchdowns, and we want to stop them on defense, and we want to win on special teams. I got tired as a head coach going into a meeting, and the offensive coordinator said, we played pretty good. We had 400 yards, just those 2 picks. And the defensive coordinator says, well, we played pretty good if it wasn't for those 2 big plays, and we lost 21-7. Like, how did we play pretty good? Because all these stats justified that poor performance. So I don't worry about statistics. I worry about execution, scoring, and stopping them. So we got to reinforce that with our guys. And it's not just being negative. It's every time we have a great workout, we got to tell them that's exactly what it's supposed to look like. Now, guess what? You got to do it tomorrow. Great job. Congratulations. You have to do it again tomorrow. And they got to know that. That's the expectation.
Any final questions for Coach? All right, that'll wrap this session of our event, and I thank you very much. Thank the writers. We'll do one-on-one interviews following. Coach Uremovich, congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Hey, I know you applied for the job. Just let me know.
So I'll tell you, there's a book, you probably don't have to read it, but it's a book about one of the most successful college coaches in the history of the country. And the book is called Under the Rule.
No, is that about the
Squash coach.
No. I'm thinking about